We are Group 5, Where's Zoe? The dog tracking harness, presented by Alex Meyer, Brian Gustav, and advisor Professor Zhao. Here's an overview of all the parts we will be looking at today. First, we have the battery bank. This is what we will be using to power our Raspberry Pi. Next, we have the Raspberry Pi itself, the case the Raspberry Pi will be in, the power supply for the Raspberry Pi, 2 heat sinks for the Raspberry Pi, the camera module, and finally the harness that will be housing all of these parts. Here we have an image of the Raspberry Pi in the case. Next is that same image, but this time we have attached the camera module. And as one thing you'll notice here is that the camera module is very short. This is why we will be using an extension cable to give us enough room to reach the front of the harness. Here we have the Raspberry Pi inside one of the pouches on the harness. This is where the Raspberry Pi will be housed along with the battery bank. Next, we have a up close look at how the camera sits in front of the dog when it's sitting down. As you can see, we may run into some trouble with the hair getting in the way of the camera lens. To combat this, we will be looking at adding thickness to the front of the harness using something like styrofoam or mesh. And here we have a side shot of the dog with the harness on, and you can kind of make out the camera module. And finally, we have a forward-facing shot of the harness and the dog standing up, showing how the camera will be positioned. Lastly, one more thing to point out about this image is you may notice that the camera is slightly tilted downward. As I said before, we were looking at adding maybe some styrofoam or some type of mesh to give that front some extra padding. This will also help combat the tilting of it down. This will help us control the angle that the camera is facing.